space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Dragon! Doctor Who Week! Yay! I know we're on a Star Trek podcast, but come on. 60 tomorrow.
No, it is. It's Doctor Who Week. But
It is. We're excited about Doctor Who.
Especially to honour Doctor Who Week, we've gone back to the Dominion War. How's that for a segue, eh? You are.
Come on, let's face it. The that first baddie, which Tim Shaw, which Jodie was against, were basically the Jem'Hadar. So, you know.
To be fair, both these stories that we're covering do feature the Doctor quite prominently.
There you go. Yeah, and I always thought Alexander Siddig would have made a good Doctor. I mean, he still would.
I agree. Yeah, he'd be great.
Yeah. So there we go. That's our link. In fact, who else? In fact, all the cast of DS9 would be a good Doctor, really.
No, I'm sorry. Call me prejudiced, call me whatever you want. Has to be a British actor, which Alexander Siddig counts as because he's got every nationality, I think, going at this rate.
Yeah.
Con Meaney, I'll accept Irish. I don't know why. That seems like close enough.
Well,
I think since we've had
he's
and that you can have Irish.
Yeah, and he's Republic of Ireland Irish though, so he's not British.
It's still part of the British Isles. It's
fine. Again, I allow. I'm just saying. It's like. Yeah, we might get in a bit of trouble saying that Southern Ireland is British. I'm just saying.
I meant the British Isles. Awesome. And there we go. We've been cancelled. 2 minutes in, boom, he makes a faux pas. Anyway, we are looking at the episodes One Little Ship, which the TARDIS is a little ship on the outside.
Sure.
So there you go. And the episode...
bigger. Yeah.
Change of heart, and we know the Doctor has 2 hearts which change whenever they regenerate. So
and what is love but 2 hearts in one sink?
There you go. So we could not have picked 2 more perfect episodes for this 60th anniversary week of Doctor Who.
And perfect for Doctor Who. In one of them, the Doctor's better used than another.
There we are. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start off then with One Little Ship, which is what's that film with Dennis Quaid? Inner Space.
Inner Space. This episode is like one of those. It doesn't do a lot to drive the story forward.
No.
But it's always been one of my guilty little pleasures is this episode. I just find it really good fun, the whole concept of it.
You know what?
I love it. It's silly fun.
The only thing I want is more Little Ship and less the 10 minutes leading into it. Like, I'm sorry, that was I never noticed before watching it this time how long it takes to get to like mini ship. I want that straight from the get-go.
And I think, I mean, we'll get to the bit a little bit later as we're going through, but the problem I had with this episode, and I get why they did it, but they do that whole thing where they're like, well, I'll have to beam a particle of air in because if you're too small, you won't be able to process the air particles. And I get that because that's something that's always a problem with miniaturization episodes. And they're obviously thought, we'll deal with that head on and we'll deal with it scientifically. But the fun of miniaturized episodes is where you get little people walking across props that are huge.
I wanted more of that, yes.
Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that one that used to be on Channel 4 on a Sunday, Land of the Giants.
Land of the Giants, I loved
it.
Yeah.
That was basically a whole show premised on we'll have somebody walking past an enormous paperclip.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to see more of, like them running under chairs and...
let's face it, 80s... Sorry, I was just going to say quickly, 80s Honey, I Shrunk the Kids has a lot to owe to Land of the Giants, very clearly.
Absolutely, it does, yeah.
Like, what it is, though, like, a lot of this is budgetary, because if you either do it where you're doing green screen, and back then, even doing the green screen on them effects was quite expensive.
Oh, yeah.
and it can look a bit ropey sometimes doing it with TV budgets, or you're building huge props that they're never going to use again, and they like to be able to reuse stuff as much as possible.
All I'm going to say is you already had it flying around. They had a ship flying around. Would it have hurt them to have had a cat which had broken on board, which could have swiped at it? You know,
There
I mean,
you go.
it's like that. You could have even done it as a crossover. You could have had the cat being Spot. Why not?
Could Odo have turned into a cat? Oh no, because if Odo had been on the ship, he could have intimidated the Jem'Hadar. So yeah, that makes sense why he's not.
And like, you know, again, the 10-minute thing I will bring up again only because it's called One Little Ship. Like, it's not like it's a reveal that they're in a smart tiny ship, but when they 10 minutes in, you finally see them being small. They go, "Oh my god!" It's like I saw, because admittedly, obviously, we've each watched this episode so many times. Like Elliot, I love this episode too. But for Christ's sake, I mean, by 10 minutes, I was like, "Did we not already get this yet?" For Christ, really?
Like there are some silly things at the start of it. Like, this is a scientific mission. It's been explained to them, and I can understand Kira a bit finding it funny what's happening to them. But she has no concept of what size they're going down to.
And it's the worst, like, don't get me wrong, Star Trek is replete with examples of shite laughing acting.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they love to give it to Kira. Like, she has quite a few really bad examples, and I think this might be the worst. She's
really
throwing
glad
herself backwards and forwards to a degree no one's ever done in the history of laughter.
I'm really, really glad you raised that, because it usually it's me, and I have to apologize, and I have to always caveat it by saying I think Nana Visitor is an absolutely brilliant actor, but she cannot do laughing, and every time Kira has to laugh, it's this, and it's rubbish.
And I'm not saying that she shouldn't have a sense of humor. Of course, the character should be well-rounded, but it's a character which has been brought up in war. Like, it's, you know, she's only known to live for survival, and she is given the goofiest sense of humor at the things no one finds funny. And maybe she's psychologically broken. I don't know what it is, but it's like it never seems to fit the episode.
Maybe it's because of all the war why she's psychologically broken.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
That's what I'm going with, is that she's so traumatized by the war and everything that she no longer has a natural laugh, and she has to affect this laugh. So it's actually a brilliant bit of acting that she's letting us know that Kira doesn't laugh naturally. She only laughs in this unnatural way that she's had to learn as a behavior because of the oppression of the Cardassians.
I love Nana as an actress. And if I'm quite happy to go with that with her reasoning.
That's it.
Oh, I mean, again, she's great. There's nothing against her. She's a wonderful actor.
No, she is. She just can't laugh.
Yeah. Well, she much like Keiko, I think. Well, I mean, Keiko just always got badly written as just the shrew, moaning wife, which is just such a bad stereotype. And I'm glad Star Trek's done better since. But I think kind of like, they didn't know what to do with Kira when she wasn't in war. A lot of the time when she wasn't in battle, they didn't know how to, I mean, they played romance with her pretty well, but humor they never really, I don't think, nailed.
Yeah, they were good at doing arguments between her and O'Brien, but you can't have a relationship for 7+ years because we also had TNG that's just built on arguing.
Yeah,
exactly. With Keiko,
yeah.
So Kira's laughing. Worf is writing a poem, which is
I love the poem at the end.
Yeah, the poem at the end is very good.
In fact, 2 great episodes for Worf's sense of humor, quite frankly.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And then
I do like that Nog covers for him.
And you know that Worf respects Nog as a warrior at this. Like, that's what I love. Like, Nog has come on so far that Worf, the one who would have been the holdout, if he smelled even a whiff of kind of Ferengi deception on him, if he's accepted him, you know that Nog's completed his journey, and it's flawless the way they do it. I'm always such a big fan of Nog's arc in the show.
Oh, yeah. Now, the reason we're covering the episode is because the antagonists are the Jem'Hadar attack. And there's I think, a potentially really interesting plot thread that's raised here and we never ever touch on again, which is this idea that because the wormhole is inaccessible now, they're having to start to breed the Jem'Hadar in the Alpha Quadrant.
It does get touched on again because
Does
there's
it?
yeah,
I
because
thought it did. In one of
because
those.
later on they destroy the cloning centers.
Oh, they destroy the cloning centers, but no, the thing I'm getting at is this idea of there being this antagonism between the Gammas and the Alphas.
There one other mention.
I don't ever recall it being raised again. If it is, we'll come across it.
I don't think it's raised like this again.
Oh, it's not. I thought there was one other episode. I didn't think it was made much, but yeah, fair play.
It feels like
this could have been
something.
This could have been something really good, and it's almost like I think there was just so much more going on with what they had to wrap up with the story. That they didn't want to be rushed with wrapping up the story. It was like, do we really need to bring another dynamic into the story? It's like, this could be, do we really need that? And I think it's sort of like, no, they didn't. And that's why it's
I wonder if at some point the idea was mooted of maybe in the closing stages of the war, could we have the Gamma Jem'Hadar turning against the rest of the Dominion and being like, you've pushed us out in favour of these Alpha ones?
Actually, I thought, from how the Alphas acted, I thought it might have been more the Alphas.
Or maybe the Alphas, maybe because a faction of Jem'Hadar.
Because you had because we see through this, we get it late when they're handing out the white and the Alphas go, we don't need to swear an oath.
Yeah, we don't need the ceremony.
We don't need the ceremony. We prove our loyalty by our actions. And it's like, no, the Jem'Hadar have read that they say the oath because that's how the...
Yeah, they could have had fun with it.
To your point, one of your or both your points about the kind of I would love to have seen, if we had infinite time on Deep Space Nine, I would love to have seen an infight between them. But I think they just had so much to do. And if you have a war between the Jem'Hadars, which you could do in a book or something, which I think you could still explore, but if you do it in the series, that how do you bring the Federation into that? How do you not make the Federation and their allies too powerful against the Dominion because they're infighting? I can see why they didn't do it, but I would love to have seen it, but I get why they didn't.
Yeah, I think you'd save it till the end, and it would have had to have been the Jem'Hadar that turned against the Dominion, not the Cardassians. And the Cardassians doing it is a far more interesting story. So I'm glad they went that way.
Yeah.
But I feel...
Yeah, I think this is one of those... I think this is one of those really interesting ideas. And I just thought, we have so many other things going on. How do you fit it in?
I agree.
Because they'll have known season 7 was last season. And look on, we have all this going on. We have X, Y, Z. We know where it's going. This is a really cool idea somebody's had. And it makes sense that they're having to bring Jem'Hadar in the Alpha Quadrant.
It does.
Because of what's happened with Wormhole. And they could have been exactly the same, not altered with what they're doing with them, but they've been altered. The genetic code has been altered as well, the programming.
I'll also add into that I think that... I forget what I was going to go with that. Sorry. Yeah, move on. No, I was just going to say, I love the... Sorry, no, I didn't. I love the fact that even though this is only used in this thing, the plot, it's such a strong B plot. And the way you can have it, because you've got literally the little ship inside the big ship, you can have the two plots interweaving nicely, but they do also stand up on their own feet. And it also gives a drive for what they... Yeah, okay. As I say, I would have happily watched that little ship just going around for the whole episode. However, it gives you more of an episode if they're then helping them to achieve their mission on the outside. So it's it kind of felt very Rascals in that way from TNG.
It did a bit. Yeah,
I love that.
So the tiny ship then. So there's a bit of fun where they're talking about O'Brien's on about getting shrunk, and it's actually you're closer to the epicenter of the thing, so you'll have shrunk a little bit more.
You're sat forward than me, so you shrunk by this much more.
Is it just me who won a really childish moment after they got hit, after they realised the Jem'Hadar's out there, and it's Bashir goes kind of flying to the other side. I just want O'Brien, even in the middle of that, to be just petty enough to go. It's like, you're short now. Anyway, let's attack the Gemini.
Yeah, that'd have been good.
Yeah,
I want him to be a 3-year-old about it. Like, really.
And this is something that I think is really good in this episode. It's and the next episode, and it's the banter between O'Brien and Bashir.
Yeah,
and we've said it before. The writing of these two, the relationship, is probably one of the best male friendships that's been written on TV.
Yeah.
Ever.
I'll even add in this one, I really like the fact that they're bouncing off each other, but like with Dax in the mix as well. Come on.
Yeah.
The three of them are just gold together. The only thing which is really weird is if you watch the episode, other than the first bit where Julian does go flying across the screen or, staggering across the screen to the other panel, every time they get hit, Bashir's just leaning over and he does not get moved once when they get hit. Like when they go back, every time they're talking really intensely, but no one's moving as if they've been hit, which is a Star Trek staple. When you get hit, you jump to the left, jump to the right. Yeah. And especially if you're stood up, but it's like not one reaction.
He learned his lesson if he got pinged across the whole thing. So that's it. He's not going to make the same mistake again.
There's no way that he isn't getting jolted around where you're standing. That's
true.
What I'm saying. But it's worth it for all the. Yeah, I mean, like another fact that you've obviously you've got Dax. Dax is always a bit of an antagonist, which is really not like she always takes the piss joke and it's also nice because where Bashir was so energetic earlier on. This is kind of like in this and the next episode because it's post his kind of like genetic reveal.
Oh yeah,
it does seem he's just so much calmer, so much more focused, and it's like almost like a bit grumpy at times, which is quite nice, like and very sardonic. It's just nice.
But
to see
it's like when they're going in and he's telling O'Brien how much shorter he is. He goes, "Yeah, you're 1 point so many meters closer than me, which means you shrunk by 0.0% more."
Yeah, he doesn't wink at the camera at all. Yes. He doesn't spike the joke, which like earlier Bashir, every joke he was always overplaying it, and I think like Alexander Siddig has said before, including an interview with me, but he said like he was still learning his craft when he started on Deep Space Nine. It was one of his earliest acting jobs, and like certainly his biggest acting job to that date. And you can see him growing as an actor so much. So I mean, it's a complete compliment. It's just lovely to see when he really hits pay dirt here.
And then, so the tension with the alphas and the gammas, you've got like the gamma guy going, well, I know what Sisko's thinking because I'm so more experienced.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sisko mixing it with all of them, like going around, oh, so you're an alpha, you're a gamma.
Oh, God, yeah.
Why are you letting him talk to you like that?
Yeah.
I mean, all the way through the gamma... previous alpha is there going, it's like, oh come on, it's fucking what he's doing right there. And like Sisko doesn't even have to hide it. He can openly say it to the gamma because the gamma knows, and he's going, it's like, yeah, I'm going to totally drop you in a second. The guy comes in and goes, oh yeah, he's been getting our way. Isn't that a bit of a nuisance? It's like he's not even subtle about it because the guy is such a dick. And we all have bosses like that, which is what's so wonderful about it. We know that you've had someone who's come in, they've been hired from the outside when everyone knows what they're doing, and someone should have been promoted from within the ranks.
Yeah.
And they're a dick and they don't know what they're doing. It's fine when they bring someone in who does add something, but it's just that useless middle management who thinks they're the shit.
Yeah, it's almost like we've not got a Vorta in this episode, but we still want to have fun with the bureaucracy. So let's have this new dynamic between the Jem'Hadar.
And the Vorta, which does show up on the view screen a couple of times, he's just so smug. It's like, well, I create those alphas. They're going to be all over this. I don't think I need to be doing any shit right here. And it's his arrogance as well, which leads to the situation because he doesn't listen to anything but his new creation, which he's so wowed with.
And is it not often the case with the Vorta that it's the arrogance?
Yeah.
So the bit with the runabout then, where they go through the conduit and the plasma and all of this, and they have to ram it.
I thought then you were have to actually say what it was because they went through a compression anomaly.
Sorry, a compression.
We've all seen one of them.
Well, they are quite frequent. Yeah, it's just we've never had an episode. But so there's the bit where it pops out of like the chute and we see it. Now, I really wish they'd played up the comedy of that. Like, if you look at the first Ant-Man film where they're fighting on the Thomas the Tank engines and you get this big dramatic bit where the trains bump into each other, and then it cuts to real size and it just shows the train set just falling over.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have got a visual gag like that out of this, like have this moment where they're dramatically escaping from the plasma and then just cut to something where it just sort of goes out of a little, and they sort of do that, but I don't know, the timing of it don't work. I feel like we could have got a much bigger laugh out of that. And I think maybe modern Star Trek would have committed a bit more to the bit there and got a bigger laugh out of it. But, that's been very picky, but I just feel like that could have been funnier.
Maybe because it was such a comedic concept, they wanted to have that kind of as more of a straight line. They didn't want to play the comedy.
Yeah, I was about to say the same. I think it's actually played pretty much as a straight episode.
It is.
It's played as a comedic episode.
I think because they know so much comedy is going to be mined out anyway.
Yeah,
you may as well and you want it to look. I guess it's so when you've got the bit later on where basically what's happening is a little toy shooting lasers at the Jem'Hadar.
Yeah,
I think they want that to play nicely so that it does invoke comedy, but you also believe it is a serious thing. Whereas if you play the comedy too much earlier, maybe it overshadows.
You know what? I am just not a subtle person. If it's funny, I need it to flash up on screen at the start. This is a comedy episode, and then I know I can laugh at it.
I'm good with this too.
And I feel like they should have overdone it a bit. Anyway, that's just I think if you've got a silly little ship, let's have a laugh with it. But there we go.
Fair play.
Now, a bit that is funny is where they're following the Jem'Hadar round, like flying behind his head. Well, I think that's quite good.
Just before that, when the first in engineering and they come up and something out the front window, they're in front of a Jem'Hadar looking at his face, and he doesn't bloody notice them. They fly off, and then you get him with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that small. It's not.
Like it's still sort of that size in front of you.
Oh, you know what they should have done? It's another one that they should have done. They should have had a bit where they were like, we ain't got any weapons. And then one of them could have used the runabout as a phaser and held it. And they should have been like, Captain, you'll have to aim for us because we can't calibrate the sensors quick enough.
Yeah, we can't.
But we'll fire.
We can't aim, but we can fire.
Yeah, and you could have had Cisco spinning round with the runabout and him going, fire, fire. That'd have been, see, there you go.
And you could have had, then you've got O'Brien there in the Defiant with like motion sickness. He's like vomiting up, like while Julian's having to jump on the weapons. Oh, yeah. It would have been a great time. There was an earlier quite fun moment, which we didn't mention. I do like it when Julian's kind of leaning back. He's like looking for the what the letters are, and he's like, "Chief, you're not going to like this." It was just
yeah, that's good fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are fun bits. I like the fact that when they're observing everyone, like O'Brien's like, right, I can see what the plan is here. And, like, Nog's doing this, Cisco's doing this. He's the only one who's actually doing what they're telling him they're doing.
Who's actually working his camera.
Do you think?
Yeah, I really like that.
Do you guys remember, I take you guys have seen at least some of the Oceans films. It kind of reminded me when they're going through the plan on that, but it's like obviously in real time in this case. Yeah, that very, very much reminded me of that.
Yeah. And then, it all wraps up pretty quickly, doesn't it? The goodies win. And
I think there's a really interesting part, that the juxtaposition between the alphas and the gammas is you have the alphas sort of, they don't seem to have the same honor as the gammas. Like, they won't do we swear allegiance to the founders with the white and all that. And then when you get the second, and he's dying, he's dying, and Cisco says, he should have listened to you. You were right. He should have listened to you. And he went, if I'd still been first, you'd have been dead. But he goes, well, why didn't you act on it? He goes, because I'm the second. And victory is his life. He give the order.
He's still delivering. He goes, victory is.
Yeah.
And he just died. Wonderful, beautiful moment.
Yeah. But it's that juxtaposition that even though he doesn't, how the Gammas are bred, even though he doesn't agree with what he said, he doesn't agree with his orders. He's an alpha who's been a dickhead, everything. Because he's only the second, he will still do what the first says because that's how he's bred to be.
Yeah,
but the alphas don't seem to have that same breeding. Because you even see it that one of the alphas, the sort of lower ones, has gone and sorted out the targeting on the phasers, the weapons array, which makes sense, but he wasn't told to be doing that. And he goes, oh, well, I thought this had made sense. And he goes, yeah, well done. And instead of he should have been knocked down.
Yeah.
If he was a fourth, he should have become a fifth for not following orders. He should have been punished. And a Gamma would have punished him for that.
Yeah. Like you say, they could have had more fun with this Alpha and Gamma business.
There were some really interesting things that they did between, if you look at the differences. And that's why I think if they had gone with it, you'd have had it been the Alphas that had turned on the Dominion.
Yeah, I think you're probably right thinking about it.
But I think either way, I mean, it's like hats off to the actors who are playing the Jem'Hadar in this episode. Both on point in their own ways. I'd also like to give a shout out before we finish the episode, though. Of course, that final scene, you've got O'Brien and Bashir having a lovely time chatting up the girl, just regaling them with a story. Like O'Brien, obviously doing it for sport. He's not, he's not trying to cheat on Keiko. But and it's then
no
when
one
you've
would
got
blame him if he did.
You've got one of those rare moments where you've got Odo and Quark actually kind of having a joke together, and they kind of
Odo
seem a lot more petite.
Yeah, but Odo plays it brilliantly how he does it because
both of them.
But Odo starts it because he just walks in and he and he just looks at them and he's like that until they notice how he's looking at them. And
I think they could have played it wrong that they kind of were knowing about the fact they were buying into each other's joke, but it's like you just got Odo going for it, and then Quark just comes up and goes, I'm having some of this, and just joins in, and then they have this lovely moment, which again they don't have to add a wink to it or anything. I like the fact it's quite clean. The fact that he goes like, and they say you don't have a sense of humor. Huh. And he just goes one and that's just.
But that's why Odo was the perfect one to play that joke on them because they all think he's really serious.
I was going to say it's like it's one of the best moments before the moment happens when he walks off from Quark at the end, and Quark goes, "It's like that guy's loving me. It's written all over his back." Like this, this is one of those moments which leads up to that moment. Like when there's that when they're on the mountain. There's certain moments which you can pick out, which shows how much they really at heart kind of love each other.
Absolutely.
Like when Odo kind of doesn't make the noise complaint. It's just all these little moments which, when that moment happens in that last episode, it means so much because of bits like this.
And of course, we get Worf's poem at the end of the episode, which
this is a story.
Which shows his sense
about one little ship that went on a little trip.
And it's Dax. It's the kind of few seconds where Dax is there, goes like, well, and she doesn't know what to say. Then she realizes.
She doesn't know if to laugh or not, and then realizes he is taking the piss.
Beautiful.
Which brings us nicely onto the next episode, which is all about Worf and Dax, and
also has O'Brien and Bashir.
O'Brien and Bashir.
And one of the weakest O'Brien Bashir storylines. I'm just going to say it.
Well,
I did not. I mean, they're still magic together, but
I don't mind the concept of the B plot, but the fact that they just drop it halfway through the episode and it feels unfinished, it just doesn't.
Yeah,
it felt like they were like, oh god, we need a B story. Who we got? We've got and we've got let's just write them into. Let's say they care about Tonga. And the thing is, in the first scene, which is beautiful, by the way, I absolutely love. Like, I've got to say, I was kind of when we first talked about Change of Heart, I didn't remember it very fondly. Quite a beautiful episode most of the way through. There's some bits which better than others.
I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think it's a bit.
No, honestly, the story, the way that they play the love affair between Dax and Worf, and the scenes between them, I think, are beautiful. But in this first scene where they talk about Tongo, you have that lovely moment when he bets on Dax.
Yeah.
That kind of sets up the whole episode. O'Brien doesn't once act as if he gives a shit. Like, he gives a shit about the relationship stuff. He doesn't like act as if like, well, that Quark's a bit big for his boots. Like, if you're going to have that be the main thrust of the B plot, you have to set
You're
it up
right,
here.
yeah.
Why the fuck? Like, he's right there, and he doesn't mention Quark once really in that exchange.
You're right.
Because
how good he is at Tongo.
It does because it says that he's obviously been paying attention because he knows he's won 207 games on the bounce.
But what I'm saying is, he isn't saying that as if like, oh god, I hate him for winning all the time. Like, I want.
No, he thinks it's really impressive. He's won 207 games on the bounce.
Yeah,
and that's why O'Brien finds it a challenge that he wants to beat in.
I think that's very thin. Your justification there, sir. I think that's
right.
very badly set up for the rest of the episode.
It is very.
It'd been nice if we'd have had a bit where O'Brien had said, "Oh, Worf, I'm glad you're here. Right. Keep an eye on Quark because I'm convinced he's up to so like you say, something like that.
Oh yeah, maybe Dax is going to win as opposed to them betting against each other.
Yeah, getting really interested.
He even bets on fucking Quark. He even bets on Quark.
Well, he bets on Quark because he knows how good he is.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's like that doesn't make any sense to him wanting to take him down a peg if he's betting on him.
Yeah, but he's also taking Worf's bet. He wants to get one over on Worf.
Again, you're doing one thing or the other. If you're going to set up the later plot,
I know.
I agree with you. Watching it does seem to come a bit out of left field. You're like, well, the Tongo story is with Dax, and then all of a sudden it's O'Brien has got to be in his bonnet about it. It does just seem odd.
Yeah, he could have been in the game. You could have had someone else betting with Worf and O'Brien been in the game and being frustrated.
Maybe something.
Like maybe he comes in third somehow, or last.
I don't know, but I do like the bit where Worf has almost like a battle cry where he's like, "Hoo, Pamakai."
Yeah, he thinks that she's running there. He's there. I like my blood wine young and sweet.
Yeah.
and also,
then when he doesn't, O'Brien goes, malt, single, from the Highlands.
Oh, yeah. Can I also throw out there? He's an Irishman. Why isn't he after Irish whiskey? Come on.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there.
I agree.
Should be Jameson's or Bushmills, like, but he's from Southern Ireland, so,
Despite my Scottish blood, I prefer Irish whiskey generally to Scottish whiskey, so I am surprised.
But I think for O'Brien's character, he should have been asking for an Irish.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, and again, Jameson's is huge
a whiskey
in
with
America, so they would know about it. It's not like it's not known to them.
Yeah, no, good point.
O'Brien should be drinking whiskey with an E.
Yeah. Like in Shameless, where they'd go to the bar and order an E. I know you meant a different type of E.
I did. I meant
yes, I know. So, that's reminded me. Should have talked about this before the show, but people who know us know that we're prone to digressions.
Oh, right.
Finally started watching that Simon Dan that you're always on about, and it was one of his ones about the Mandela effect. And just so you all know, Gordon Ramsay no longer exists because his surname is spelt Ramsay, not Ramsey. And it shows that our universe has transitioned to another universe, and we've not realised because of the letter E. So there you go.
If you're watching Simon Dan, you need to look at there's him and Sir Sick, and they keep doing videos on a guy called Hans Wombat. And he doesn't believe things exist. And he does videos that animals don't exist.
Oh, is he the guy the birds don't exist? Because I keep hearing about that.
Well, he's done penguins don't exist. It's all robots and CGI. And he's gone some really crazy stuff that he comes out with that doesn't exist.
I will check it out. Anyway, back to Star Trek. My apologies. So they've got to go on this mission to the Badlands. And this is where we get the stuff about Worf being funny. And I do like the exchange where I was considered very amusing on the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah. I love the way he delivers as well. Very amusing, not like funny.
Yeah.
But I like Dax's reply. Well, that must have been a very dull ship. And I'm not being funny, but if you watch Next Gen compared to DS9 and Voyager, and to an extent sometimes even Enterprise, Next Gen is the one that took itself very seriously.
It did.
It isn't very funny.
But they do such a good job of right from the beginning of the episode having Worf evolving, being like more like what we wish he could have been in the Next Generation. You know, the potential was there, but it was never realized. And the fact that he's not just being funny, he's being sort of funny in a Dax way, in his own way, because he kind of does it very sardonically, but it's like he is winding Dax up in the way that she winds him up. So it's kind of playing her at the own game, which is really nice. And like, even when she goes like, we'll talk about this later, he's going, and he's still laughing. And he knows that she can't lose her ship because she does it to him all the time.
It's
just so nice done. Even right at the beginning when he's saying, it's like, I'd rather lose betting on Dax than win on anyone else. Like, that's so on Klingon. Like, I'd rather lose. Like, it doesn't matter for love, And I know they're a very romantic race and they believe in love, but it's love through battle, kind of like, and it's just so many kind of steps ahead in the character, which they get to keep at the end, really. It's
developing like DS9 did so much to develop Klingon culture.
Yeah,
more than what we'd ever seen before.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have the, I think the groundwork, which Next Generation did well, but they didn't follow through with it as well, which Deep Space Nine, like you say, really do.
Yeah, and that was largely, I think, down to Ronald D. Moore. He became like the Klingon guy on DS9 and really fleshed them out and everything.
Although it was kind of badass that the sign of dishonor was just folding their arms and turning their back on you. It's like that just somehow seems so cold. It's like, I'm not even gonna admit you exist.
Yeah. I'm turning my back. You no longer exist. I won't even look at you. My hands, that with the Klingons when they do that, it's like, I'm not going to offer you my hand in friendship, but you're not even worth me holding a weapon to you.
You're right.
Also, when they turn their back, like that little kind of move with their legs, that shows they're also nifty movers. They're good dancers. I'm telling you, even though Klingons may choose not to dance, if they were ever on the dance floor.
I'm sorry, but I watch Strange New Worlds.
I was going to say, you're going to bring up Strange New Worlds.
I know that Klingons are good dancers.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm saying, the clues were always there.
You can't beat a bit of K-pop.
Klingons really like Cotton Eye Joe. Reliably told.
Kapla-I-O.
Yes, so they have this whole thing about the honeymoon. Worf wants to suffer on his honeymoon, but Dax wants a nice honeymoon, which I think she's been reasonable there.
I want room service. I want it outrageous. I want anything I ask for. I want the slightest wing.
But I'm saying the way that he goes, it's like, fine, we'll book that. I think he already was going to.
I think he was. Yeah.
It's so delicious.
But it's like Martok told him it's about little victories.
Yeah. Well, it's right. He go and Dax is right. She goes, you had the wedding, you planned that, you wanted the Klingon wedding. This is the honeymoon. We are having this honeymoon.
And that's the thing.
What I want, and you can't argue with that.
No, but it all works out to Dax's advantage because she enjoyed having a Klingon wedding, and now she gets to do the bit that might have been more difficult to agree on. Then we go back to O'Brien wanting to learn Tonga. They do that thing where they do this in a few episodes that they've got Bashir all geared up to do another Julian Bashir secret agent. And we don't get to see it. And it's like, I would have rather we went on the holodeck and did another Julian Bashir secret agent for this plot.
Like,
yeah.
Like, when you look at, like, it is very contrived for the Tonga, which we've talked about. So you could have had them going off and doing somewhere else.
And you know what we're on the B plot, I actually would have really liked it. You know, when Quark very skillfully kind of manipulates him, I would sort of like to... You could have built this up a bit nicer, so you could have had like almost Rom is like or another Ferengi, but Rom, I think could have serviced in this role. He could have been the one who's trying to coach him to like win, like he's on his corner of the way. O'Brien's in Julian's, and then wouldn't have been funny if like when Quark's trying to convince Julian, like and Julian starts making mistakes. If Julian goes, "Oh, but do you feel like this?" And like Quark starts asking questions himself, and he starts making some mistakes. So they both lose to a third party. That would have been so much funnier. This was other like. There's so many times when I've seen.
This is almost season 2 or 3 Bashir, not season 6 Bashir. Well, he's moved past the Dax thing.
And season 2 or 3 writing as well. Really, like they've done so much better with kind of more complex plots. I think this was very Route 1.
And the story feels like it's missing a final beat. Like it feels like the story should have been that this happens, and then O'Brien takes Bashir aside and goes, "Don't you realise what he did? He said all that stuff about Dax to put you off." And Bashir's like, "Oh, I can't believe I fell for it." And then Bashir goes back and does something to manipulate Quark, and it puts Quark off, and Bashir wins. It feels like that beat should have happened to the extent that when I got to the end of this episode, when I was making my notes, I genuinely thought, have I blacked out and missed the end of this B plot? And I got Wikipedia open to see if this is actually how it ends, but it does, and it's about halfway through the runtime of the episode. And that's the end of your B plot. It's just bizarre. Like it's not well paced. It's not well structured. It's not well integrated with the rest of the story. It's just odd.
I'll add to that as well. How is Quark, like, other than Quark being the nemesis for them, how is he actually realized in this? Like, he's not really featured apart from just a mechanic of someone to beat Bashir.
Yeah,
he has to be involved in the plot somehow for him to actually matter as a nemesis. In the nemesis, I use in a very broad term, but you know what I mean. To be the combatant.
It's just from that one through that bet that Quark, that O'Brien and Worf had that. Quark has now won 207 games in a row, so I find it a challenge. The same as I go kayaking all the time down the same rapids. And I play darts against someone genetically enhanced. And
I find that reasoning.
Even if you don't have Bashir going back and beating him, have another beat that pays off and give Quark something to do. So, you could have Bashir after saying, well, I realize what you were doing, but you can't do that to everyone. How are you on such a winning streak? And Quark could say something like, well, ever since Jadzia got married and I realised there was no point pursuing her, it's much easier to beat her also. And then you'd get a little bit of character for Quark, like, he's moved on from this infatuation.
He hasn't just beaten her, so he's beaten everyone.
I know he hasn't, but you could have played that in.
Everyone.
You've just got to care about it, why he's doing it, is the thing. And you don't care about it. He's not invested. He's not He is an ancillary character when he's a main character. And like, again, why do we care that O'Brien's beating him? Like, O'Brien wants a challenge, but why do we care? Why is Quark relevant in this?
There isn't anything. It isn't.
No, there's not.
It's like.
It's basically one of them Nog and Jake stories from season 1, but with O'Brien and Bashir for some reason.
But even then, you sort of cared about why they were doing, because like it was kiddish scrapes, there was they're adults. Why are they doing this? They need a bit more motivation and a bit more reason why. Like maybe Quark could come up to them and been a dick after the match and gone, it's like another win for me. Like if he'd done that to O'Brien and that rubbed him off the wrong way, that would at least give some motivation. But we don't. Yeah, a challenge isn't enough of a motivation. Yes, we know O'Brien likes challenge. He's married to Keiko, and the way they've characterized her in this show, that's a challenge.
Like, I think they even overplayed Bashir's genetically enhanced brain and all that in this, because when he sits down and he goes, I don't even know the rules of Tongo, and Bashir hands him a pad and he goes here, and he goes, okay, let's play it, and as if he's learnt it just by a glance, and it's like, no, that's nonsense.
Unless it says something really easy like play a card. But
Like,
yeah, we know the rules of Tongo are quite complicated. Like you have to sell for a certain amount, and then...
I do like how sort of like when O'Brien and Bashir are practicing, and O'Brien's convinced that he's going to go play this, and Julian keeps going to him, "No, Chief, you can't play Tongo."
Yeah.
Well, you do not know how to play. And the being played is going, "No, you can't play Tongo."
Well, can I also throw into that though? Because at the same time, they're saying that, Julian picked it up so quickly, like picked up in second, and then he's getting annoyed with O'Brien for not picking up with the same speed. Like that doesn't really make any sense either. But if you're gonna...
Yeah, but O'Brien has said that he's played it previously, that he isn't just learning it.
I thought he was just learning it now.
No, he says that he's played it previously.
No, he's played before, but he's trying to learn like the tactics and stuff like that. Anyway, let's go back to the A plot, the main story, and again, I just feel it's a bit meh. But anyway, Worf that's quite a cute moment where you've got Worf getting cold and not wanting to admit it. This is a warrior.
This episode threw me for a second because I was almost expecting the brain to come in, that they'd get captured, and I got the Ezri and the Worf one mixed up for a second in my brain.
Well, this is the one which Terry Farrell said. It's like, well, if they were going to kill me off in that manner anyway, why not just do it here? Like she said on record, which, because that's the thing I'm always thinking of. It's like, this is so similar to how she dies in a lot of ways. It's just, it takes the sting out of when she does that. Not that that isn't a lovely scene, but it's like the method of why she dies. Just
it's because it's not the finale, and they would because of a contract they would have. But they would have had to have paid her for however many episodes.
I know. I'm just saying, it's
like we're not killing you early.
If you're going to kill her
for another 10 episodes without doing anything,
if you're going to kill her later in some way, I just think you don't do this plot now. But I loved the character stuff. I loved a lot about it. But my problem with this is it's sort of like it plays it so well throughout the episode, and then suddenly it's like, oh, then he's got to go off. Now he's back again. It's just like that's not really played enough. And I mean, I even love the bit where they realize it's gemmed up because they're hiding in the bushes and the camera angle goes a bit weird. Like, so you're seeing from their camera angle. And even the fact that I don't think this was intentional because it's just a thing of HGTV's playing old episodes, but it went a bit grainy, which even added to that kind of like weird feel of it. And it's really nice and tense. Like, it's very rare that they play these moments. And I think they've got handheld camera as well. It just does feel very tense. You do feel the kind of sense of jeopardy in a way which you don't in a lot of other episodes of Unfranked. And I think that's really nicely played. It's just the end of it is just rushed. It feels like, I want a longer moment when Worf is having that moment of crisis.
He has to deliberate, or at least have him like, you could have amped up the tension, like have him so he can see the Cardassian and he's nearly there, but then he's like, I can't. Or just something, I don't know. Whereas it's just, he runs a bit and then he throws his knife thing into a tree and then he goes back.
We don't even know how far he's run, because by the time he gets back, he's not even sure if Jadzia is still alive because she has to take a pulse.
Yeah.
So he's obviously gone quite a distance, and he only had 3 kilometers to go, which I think Worf on his own, being healthy, running through a forest in the warmth, which it was then, he could probably do that pretty rapidly.
Yeah, I would have thought so, yeah.
Even give him a moment where it's like, he gets to some sort of crisis point whereby he does reach them. He knows that if he's really quick, he's got a good chance of saving Dax. But then there's a crisis moment whereby something gets more complicated and he can either go ahead and complete the mission or save Dax.
It needed an obstacle that stopped him going forward.
Yeah, it can't just be he goes out and he goes, I'm going to turn back. Like, that's
it. He needed to have a moment where he had to definitively make a choice, and because if he's going to do this, all it's doing is paying lip service to him saying, I'm going to go, because he sort of goes, I'm going to go, I'm back. And it's like, you need him to have committed to one course of action and then had a reason to change his mind. Otherwise, yeah, he may as well have just said, no, I'm not leaving you. And that has the same impact as running around the houses, I
mean, if you even want to have a little bit of fun with it, you have that crisis moment, and he goes like, and he makes some sort of joke because he kind of shoots the Jem'Hadar, then runs back for Dax as opposed to running forward to the mission. Like, like he goes like, oh, the Jem'Hadar goes like, oh, so you're not a real warrior? Then he goes, no, I guess I'm just a man who loves his wife. And go like, just something to add. Just, I know it's cheesy, but it's like, you know what I mean? It's like,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know quite how you could have structured it, but yeah, it should feel.
Like, I mean, it's like both stories needed more.
But he goes back and forth about his sense of humor, and like if you wrap that up in it as well somehow, that it's like he chooses to be a bit funny before he then pegs it back for his wife because he cares about her more than even honor, which he said earlier in the episode. I think that would have been a lovely bow on it. So yeah, it's because I love this episode right until the end, and then it just loses me.
You could have just done something really simple, like Worf's got a tricorder that's tracking Dax's life signs, and they take a bit of a dip, and he goes, "No, that's it. I'm going back for her." And just something. I don't know.
It would have given it better than it did. Yeah.
It couldn't have done that because it already established that the tricorders weren't working.
I know, but you change it, don't you, so that they are.
And I feel like they're also at the end they're trying to create a tension post the end. It's like really the end of drama is finished, and then you've got. I do like the fact that there are some kind of consequences to career, but like when Sisko says with no real it's not as like watching it now because you raised this point, Jim, about like he said you never make captain. He goes, you probably won't make captain. Which
I picked up on that this time because a lot of people cited this as, oh, well, if they made him the captain of the Enterprise E, it's going back on what Sisko said. And you're right, isn't it? They probably won't trust you with the command.
I think about all those years later, all the changes which he made.
Also, like Sisko goes, Dax and Worf had to be sent on a mission together. I'm not being funny, but in armed forces now, you don't allow siblings to be on the same ship on the same mission.
Yeah.
And this is nowadays. So why is all that changed? That suddenly you have to remember that again in 4, 5, 4.
I mean, not being funny, but in a lot of businesses, they don't let couples work together. Never mind, even when you're not going to war.
This is something that they do now. That you don't send siblings. You don't send husband and wife. Because there's an emotional element that can conflict.
But if you think if you think of 100 years, like how many hundreds of years in the future are they from us? So
is it 500 years? 400.
So think of 500 years from now, like 400 years from now, for like previous to now.
Yeah.
These social mores and how strict they were compared to now. Like, there was a lot more kind of strict boundaries than there are now. In another 400 years, I believe that they could have changed so much that, especially when you're in a world where it's like you live more for the greater good than the individual. Maybe that kind of changing the tone of how you think about humanity does make
a big difference. And the idea is that Starfleet are the best of the best, so you should be able to put aside.
I don't know that, even like the American Navy, and it's been since Second World War, do not let the same any members of the same family serve on the same ship. Because the ship went down and 4 brothers died on it. So
I think there's good reason.
4 letters all at once.
I think there's good reason, but I'm just saying that's 50, 70, 100 years.
No, but that's
compared to 400 years in the future. So much can change at that time to change social attitudes.
Could they have done something to give it a bit more emotional heft? Like Sisko says, the information he had could have saved hundreds or millions of lives or whatever, but it could have been quite good if you'd have had Sisko give him a casualty list and say this depot's just been attacked or
that's a
something
bit much.
Like that.
I
think that would have landed
Worf at the end. You've still got to like Worf at the end.
I still would like Worf at the end if that happened, but not Sisko being nasty, but just saying I'd have done the same thing as you. But
to be fair, Sisko does say that. He
does.
I'd have gone back and said my wife.
Yeah,
but
it
I
does.
think him
Exactly
then
what you
presenting.
did.
I think it undercuts what he's saying there if he presents him with a casualty list for
Yeah.
Star Trek sites.
I
I think that's
you
going
could have
back on
wrote it
his
in.
sentiment a little bit.
And then no, take it even further. He should have given him a casualty list and should have gone. And now I'm going to show you a picture of this puppy that lived there. And he's going to go, look at him, look at his little face.
I know you don't like the Kardashians, but look at this puppy that he had. That the kids
Yeah.
at the same time.
Just quickly, here's a picture of a kid. No, the kid isn't dead. Just its parents. Now that child's going to grow up an orphan thanks to you, Worf. I hope you're happy.
Yeah,
but I would have done the same. I would have done the same. But I would have to then face this orphan child.
Hey, Worf had just gone, hey, I was an orphan. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, I was an orphan. My son might as well be an orphan. It's absolutely fine.
My son even more so than me, if anything.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, yeah,
like
there's
you could just imagine the conversation with Jadzia, can't you? Jadzia, children, have you seen what a job I did with Alexander? Do you really want them?
And then, but that's your, you see, there you go. That's your payoff to the episode. You have Sisko showing Worf the casualty list, and then the episode finishes with Worf just goes back to the infirmary and he just chucks it on the bed next to Dax and he goes, that's your fault.
Yeah, and it now makes me just think of the last scene between Dax and Worf when she does actually die, and she's going, our children would have been so beautiful, and Worf's like, and I would have shipped them off to my grandparents too. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'd have had to take your word for it because I'd have never seen them. Yeah. Anyway,
It's so mean yet so deserved.
it is. He's not a good dad.
And this is proved.
And you can argue that Alexander's not the greatest son, but that's not the point.
Yeah, but how much of a chance did he have with the dad he had?
Well, very true. Right, we'll wrap it up there then. Next week we've got some good ones. Actually.
It's awkward. I need to talk to you both offline.
It is awkward because we might
have to do one that isn't the Minion War.
We may have to. We'll hold off the reveal of the upcoming episodes then because we've got an unusual situation coming up.
And we have something in 2 weeks where we're going to do a little special thing as well.
We do. So yes. But we will be back next week. We just have to work out some scheduling. We're so professional.
Yeah.
In the meantime,
I think Ian has some scheduling before next week.
Oh, go on then.
Well, I thought I was going to wait.
I will do that. Yeah. So in the meantime, we're at Retrek Pod. At Retrek Pod on your Twitter X's, retrekpod@gmail.com. And we're on all of the socials, including Retrek Model Studios, where Elliot is now. Tell us what you're now working on, Elliot.
Well, since we were last here, I've had the final 2 videos of the Mobius sub, so check them out. The last one, I've included a photo gallery at the end, so you can see what the sub looks like, all lit up and all the internal surfaces. So I'm really happy with that. And then I've started on the Supernatural Impaler, or Impalers, because I'm working on 2 of them. I've put the first video out on that. And I also did a nice, fun little short that's only about 10 seconds long that shows how to cut plastic doors out and everything on the car model really quick.
Excellent. And then Dr. Squee, we've got the Dr. Squee show. What have we got going on there?
Well, first of all, we've just had an interview I had with my buddy Lizzie and our friend Mac talking about the Better Social Club on the 15th of December. If you're around Wales, please do pop by. It's going to be an event for charity, raising money for Mind and Ronald McDonald House. It's going to be a wonderful event. Raffle, Matt Lee's band's playing. Just going to be a wonderful night. Please do make your way down if you're in the area. But coming up in the next 3 weeks, we mentioned it earlier, it's Doctor Who's 60th anniversary. We couldn't be more excited, and I am wearing the proper wear. Like I have revived not only the hoodie of the Gallifrey Stands podcast with our beloved Dottie Who right there, R.I.P. But also we're going to be bringing Gallifrey Stands back for 3 special episodes. We're going to be talking about it's sort of the Dr. Squee Show presents Gallifrey Stands podcast, but we're going to be talking about the 3 specials of Doctor Who, which are coming up in the next 3 Saturdays. So this Sunday at 10 o'clock, we're going to do the first one. We're going to do it on Sunday for the first 2 weeks, and the third one, hopefully, we're going to set up so it's going to be right after the episode. But for the first one, I can be more excited. I'm welcoming my buddies right here from this here podcast. We got Elliot and James joining me to talk some Doctor Who. So, come on. You've heard us talk Star Trek. Now hear us talk about Doctor Who as the 14th Doctor returns. Well, comes for the first time, but David Tennant returns for the first time.
David Tennant
since he was the 10th Doctor. Come on now.
And I have to say, well, I messaged you and said the same thing, but just that little Children in Need sketch felt more like Doctor Who than it's felt in I don't know how long. And yeah, I'm really excited for this episode. So
yeah, I am.
Please join us on Facebook on facebook.com / the Dr. Squee Show, or on my personal Facebook, I'll probably link in, and youtube.com / Dr. Squee or DrSquee.com.
You know what we could do as well, actually? If you send me the audio, we can put that on the Retrek feed, since it's the 3 of us. We can put it out as a podcast on the Retrek feed.
But please join us this Sunday at
join us live
UK time. If you're in the States, or if you're watching us elsewhere and you're not there at the time, don't worry, you can still check it out afterwards. You just go to the YouTube page or Facebook. It'll be on there for you to catch up with later, because we understand some people might be catching up with the episode later. But I just wanted to talk about one that's fresh because this is so exciting to me. I remember watching Doctor Who as a little kid, and I've been watching it ever since. And it's really exciting to get to talk to you guys about it, and to talk to my buddies here, Jim and Elliot. It's going to be wonderful.
Brilliant. And we'll be back with more Star Trek. We haven't decided. We will be back next week with more. So thanks for trekking with us this time. We will see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Drag off an LLAP!
Fascinating.
And damn right, Facebook user, woo!